Hey everyone, welcome back to the English Leap podcast, your English podcast for real conversation practice and easy English in daily life.
Yes, the place where even tough conversations become great English practice.
I'm Anna.
And I'm Jake. Great to have you with us today.
So Jake, be honest. How do you usually react when someone criticizes your work?
Oh, my first instinct is almost always to explain myself immediately, even before I've really listened to what they said. Not my proudest habit.
So relatable, and honestly, such a human reaction. Well, today's episode is exactly for that moment.
Yes, today we're talking about how to handle criticism in English without getting defensive, receiving feedback gracefully, responding thoughtfully, and even asking clarifying questions, all while staying calm and confident.
This is such a valuable, real-life skill because criticism happens constantly at work, in relationships, even in casual conversations. And how we respond really shapes how others see us and, honestly, how much we actually grow from it.
True, and it's also a great chance to practice some really useful, calm, grounded English phrases, the kind that help you pause, process, and respond thoughtfully instead of reacting instantly.
Exactly. By the end of this episode, you'll have a full toolkit for receiving criticism gracefully, whether it's gentle feedback or something a bit harder to hear.
Quick favor before we start. If you're enjoying this podcast, please like this episode, subscribe, and share it with a friend learning English.
And comment below. Tell us about a time you received criticism really well, or a time you wish you'd handled it differently. We genuinely love reading your comments.
All right, let's get into it.
Okay, let's start by understanding why this specific situation triggers such a strong reaction in most of us.
Great question. Reason 1. Criticism often feels like a threat, even when it's meant constructively. Our brains can react almost like we're being attacked, triggering that defensive instinct.
True. And reason 2, many of us were taught, especially in school, that mistakes are something to avoid or hide, rather than something natural and useful for growth.
Reason 3. Fear of judgment. Worrying that criticism means someone thinks less of us as a person rather than simply having feedback about one specific thing we did.
Reason 4, language barriers can add extra pressure for English learners specifically, worrying about understanding the feedback correctly on top of managing the emotional reaction.
Great breakdown. The good news is, English has a lot of really useful, calm phrases specifically designed to help you pause, process, and respond thoughtfully rather than defensively. Let's build that toolkit now.
Okay, let's build a simple, reliable structure for responding to criticism calmly and gracefully.
Step 1. Pause and acknowledge before responding immediately. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you telling me this.
Step 2, reflect briefly, showing you're genuinely considering the feedback, not just moving past it. Let me think about that for a moment. That's a fair point.
Step 3, optional, respond thoughtfully, either accepting, clarifying, or, if needed, gently offering your own perspective. I can definitely work on that. Could you help me understand what specifically you mean?
Let's build a full example. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate the honesty. Let me think about it for a moment. That's a fair point. I can definitely work on being clearer in my reports.
Perfect. Calm, thoughtful, and confident all at once. Notice there's no immediate defense or explanation, just genuine acknowledgement first.
Let's build another one. I appreciate you telling me this. It's helpful to know. Could you help me understand a bit more about what specifically wasn't working?
Beautiful, calm, curious response, listeners, showing openness rather than defensiveness. Let's build your vocabulary toolbox now.
Let's go through a range of useful phrases for receiving criticism, from simple acknowledgement to deeper reflection.
Acknowledgement phrases. Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate you being honest with me. That's really helpful to know. I hadn't thought about it that way.
Reflection phrases. Let me sit with that for a moment. That's a fair point. I can see where you're coming from. You might be right about that.
Clarifying phrases. Could you give me an example? What would you suggest instead? Can you help me understand what specifically didn't work?
Committing to improvement phrases, I'll definitely work on that. I really appreciate you pointing this out. I'll be more mindful going forward. Thanks, I'll take that into account next time.
Great range, listeners, covering acknowledgement, reflection, clarification, and commitment, all essential parts of gracefully receiving criticism.
Let's build a full example combining several. Thank you for the feedback. I really appreciate your honesty. Could you give me an example of what specifically wasn't working? That makes sense. I can see where you're coming from. I'll definitely be more mindful of that going forward.
Beautiful, natural example, listeners, showing how these phrases fit together in a genuine, mature conversation.
Let's cover something really important: managing the internal emotional reaction, the urge to defend yourself before you even speak.
Great addition, and this connects nicely to our shyness and confidence episodes too. Useful internal phrases, things you can say to yourself in the moment. It's okay, this isn't personal, it's about the work. I don't need to respond immediately. I can take a breath before answering.
Beautiful, calming internal phrases, listeners, giving yourself permission to pause rather than react instantly.
Let's also cover a useful external phrase for genuinely needing a moment before responding. Can I take a moment to think about that? I want to give this a thoughtful response. Give me just a second.
Great, completely acceptable phrases, listeners, showing that pausing before responding is a sign of maturity, not weakness or confusion.
Let's also mention breathing and body language briefly, connecting to our earlier episodes. Relaxed shoulders, a calm, steady voice, and a brief pause before speaking all genuinely help manage that defensive instinct in real time.
Great point, listeners. Tone and body language matter just as much as the words themselves here.
Let's build a full example. Can I take a moment to think about that? Okay, thank you for waiting. I think you're right. I hadn't considered that angle.
Beautiful, calm, mature example, listeners, showing exactly how a brief pause can transform a defensive reaction into a thoughtful response.
Let's cover a trickier situation. Criticism you genuinely disagree with, since not all feedback will feel accurate or fair.
Great point, and this connects beautifully to our earlier disagreement episode. Useful phrases: I hear what you're saying, though I actually see it a bit differently. I appreciate the feedback, though I'd like to share my perspective too, if that's okay.
Great, respectful phrases, listeners, showing that you can acknowledge feedback without automatically agreeing with every part of it.
Let's also cover phrases for respectfully explaining your reasoning without sounding defensive. Here's what I was thinking when I made that decision. I chose that approach because...
Great, calm, explanatory phrases, listeners. Notice the difference between explaining your reasoning calmly versus defending yourself emotionally. The tone and timing really matter here.
Let's build a full example. I really appreciate the feedback, though I actually see it a bit differently. Here's what I was thinking when I made that decision, but I'm definitely open to reconsidering if that context changes things.
Beautiful, balanced example, listeners, showing genuine respect for the other person's input while still honoring your own reasoning and perspective.
Let's cover how receiving criticism shifts slightly depending on the setting: professional feedback, personal relationships, and casual social situations.
Great point. In professional settings, structured, calm phrases work especially well. Thank you for the feedback. I'll make sure to incorporate that into my next draft. I appreciate you taking the time to review this so thoroughly.
In personal relationships, warmer, more emotionally attuned language often feels more natural. I really appreciate you being honest with me. That couldn't have been easy to bring up. I want to understand this better. Can we talk it through a bit more? I want to really understand how I made you feel.
Beautiful, warm, mature example, listeners, showing exactly the emotional depth that close relationships often call for. Mistake 1. immediately explaining or justifying before genuinely listening, which can feel dismissive, even if unintentional. Pausing first, then responding feels much more mature and receptive.
Mistake 2, apologizing excessively, which can sometimes feel more like appeasing than genuinely processing the feedback. A calm, "Thank you, I'll work on that," is often more effective than multiple over-the-top apologies.
Mistake 3, dismissing feedback too quickly. That's not true at all, without taking a moment to genuinely consider it, even if you ultimately disagree.
Mistake 4, taking feedback about your work too personally, confusing "this particular thing didn't work" with "you are bad at this." Remember, most criticism, when delivered well, is about specific actions, not your entire worth or identity.
Mistake 5, staying silent and appearing agreeable while internally feeling resentful, rather than honestly, calmly sharing your genuine perspective when appropriate.
Beautifully covered, listeners. Small adjustments, much more mature, growth-oriented responses to criticism overall.
Quick cultural note before our example conversations, because comfort with direct criticism does shift a bit across English-speaking cultures.
True, in the United States, especially in professional settings, fairly direct feedback is often expected and valued, sometimes softened with the feedback sandwich technique we mentioned in our disagreement episode.
In the United Kingdom, criticism is often delivered more indirectly, sometimes through understatement, so a mild-sounding comment might actually carry more weight than the words alone suggest.
In Australia, feedback tends to be fairly direct too, often blended with warmth and casual humor, similar to their general communication style.
And in many parts of India and South Asia, criticism, especially from elders or people in authority, is often delivered with a layer of care and relationship context, sometimes indirectly to preserve harmony and respect within the relationship.
Great context, listeners, because it really shows that the same words might carry different weight depending on where you are. So reading the cultural context genuinely matters when interpreting and responding to criticism.
Beautifully summarized. Now let's cover a few useful idioms before our example conversations.
Let's cover idioms that come up naturally around feedback and criticism.
First, take it on the chin, meaning to accept criticism or difficulty gracefully, without complaining. I made a mistake, and honestly, I just took it on the chin.
Second, grow a thicker skin, meaning to become more resilient to criticism over time. I've had to grow a thicker skin working in this industry.
Third, constructive criticism, essential vocabulary, meaning feedback intended to help you improve rather than simply to hurt or discourage. I really value constructive criticism.
Fourth, read between the lines, meaning to understand a deeper meaning beyond the literal words, useful for more indirect feedback. I had to read between the lines to understand what she really meant.
Fifth, take it with a grain of salt, which we covered in our advice episode too, meaning not to take something too literally or seriously. I try to take harsh feedback with a grain of salt sometimes.
Sixth, water off a duck's back, a lovely British idiom meaning something that doesn't bother or affect you at all. Honestly, most criticism is just water off a duck's back for me these days.
Let's build an example combining a few. I've really had to grow a thicker skin in this job. I try to take most feedback with a grain of salt, and generally, I just take it on the chin and keep moving forward.
Perfect natural example, listeners, showing exactly how these idioms instantly add warmth and resilience to conversations about handling criticism.
Okay, first one, receiving feedback from a manager at work.
I wanted to chat about the report you submitted. There were a few areas that could use more clarity.
Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate you telling me. Could you give me a specific example of what wasn't clear?
Sure, the data section jumped around a bit. It was hard to follow the main point.
That's really helpful. I can definitely restructure that section. I'll make sure future reports are more organized.
Great. I appreciate you being so open to the feedback.
Great. Calm, professional example, listeners, showing exactly how graceful, growth-oriented feedback conversations flow.
Now, let's do a second one, receiving personal feedback from a close friend.
Hey, can I share something that's been on my mind? You seemed a little distracted the last few times we hung out.
I really appreciate you telling me. That couldn't have been easy to bring up. Can you tell me a bit more about what you noticed?
Just you were on your phone a lot, and it felt like I didn't have your full attention.
That's really fair, and honestly, I hadn't realized I was doing that. Thank you for being honest. I'll definitely be more present next time.
I really appreciate that. Thank you for hearing me out.
Beautiful, warm example, listeners, showing exactly the emotional maturity and openness that strengthens close friendships.
Let's do a third one, disagreeing respectfully with feedback.
I think the presentation was a bit long, honestly.
I hear you, though I actually included that extra section because a few stakeholders specifically asked for more detail there. Do you think it still felt excessive even with that context?
Ah, that makes sense, actually. I didn't know that was requested. That changes my perspective a bit.
No worries. I appreciate you sharing your honest first impression either way.
See, listeners, notice how calmly this disagreement unfolded. Respectful, curious, and completely free of defensiveness. Exactly the tone that leads to genuine understanding.
Let's do one final example, handling criticism in a more casual, lighthearted setting.
Honestly, that joke didn't really land the way you thought it did.
Fair enough. Noted for next time.
No offense, your other jokes are usually pretty great.
None taken. I'll workshop some new material.
Beautiful, light example, listeners, showing that not every piece of feedback needs deep, heavy processing. Sometimes a light, gracious response is exactly right. Quick fact before practice time. From a listener named Mateus, what if criticism is delivered really harshly or unkindly? How do I respond without getting defensive?
Great, important question, Mateus. You can separate the delivery from the content. I hear the point you're making, though I'd really appreciate it if we could discuss this a bit more calmly. Addressing tone respectfully is completely valid.
Next, from a listener named Yuki, is it okay to ask for time before responding to serious feedback rather than answering right away?
Absolutely, Yuki. Very healthy, actually. I'd like to take some time to really think this over. Can we talk again tomorrow? Shows genuine consideration rather than a rushed, possibly defensive reaction.
Next, from a listener named Camille, how do I handle criticism about something really personal, not just work-related?
Thoughtful question, Camille. Extra gentleness with yourself helps here, alongside the same core tools. Pause, acknowledge, reflect. It's also completely okay to say, this feels like a lot to process right now. Can we come back to this conversation later?
Last one, from a listener named Tariq. What if I realize the criticism was actually completely wrong? How do I say that respectfully?
Great question, Tariq. I really appreciate you sharing that, though after reflecting, I don't think that's quite accurate here. Let me explain why. Calm, confident, and respectful without being dismissive of their effort to give feedback.
Great questions today, everyone. Thanks for sending them in.
Quick shadowing exercise before practice time. We say a sentence, you repeat it out loud.
Sentence 1. Thank you for the feedback. Now you.
Sentence 2. Let me think about that for a moment. Now you.
Sentence 3. Could you give me an example? Now you.
Sentence 4. I can definitely work on that. Now you.
Sentence 5. I hear what you're saying, though I see it a bit differently. Now you.
Sentence 6. I really appreciate you being honest with me. Now you.
Great job, everyone. Let's also review our full glossary quickly. Acknowledgement. Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate you telling me this. That's really helpful to know.
Reflection. Let me sit with that for a moment. That's a fair point. I can see where you're coming from.
Clarifying. Could you give me an example? What would you suggest instead? Can you help me understand?
Committing to improvement. I'll definitely work on that. I'll be more mindful going forward. Thanks. I'll take that into account.
Idioms. Take it on the chin. Grow a thicker skin. Constructive criticism. Water off a duck's back. Take it with a grain of salt.
What a complete toolkit, listeners. Review this glossary whenever you want a quick refresher before receiving real feedback in English.
Let's give you one more useful resource. 15 different everyday criticism scenarios, each with a natural, gracious response.
Number 1. Feedback on a work email. Thanks for flagging that. I'll definitely make it clearer next time.
Number 2. Feedback on your cooking. Ha! Noted. I'll adjust the seasoning next time I make it.
Number 3. Feedback on being late frequently. You're right. I really need to work on my timing. I appreciate you telling me.
Number 4. Feedback on a presentation style. That's helpful. I'll try to slow down and simplify my slides.
Number 5. Feedback from a partner about communication. Thank you for sharing that. Can we talk more about what you need from me?
Number 6. Feedback on a piece of writing. I appreciate the honest read. Could you point out which parts felt unclear?
Number 7. Feedback on parenting choices. I hear you, though I'd like to explain my reasoning, if that's all right.
Number 8. Feedback on driving. Fair point. I'll be more careful with that next time.
Number 9. Feedback on a business idea. That's really useful perspective. Thank you for being honest.
Number 10. Feedback on your fashion choice. Ha! Noted. Definitely rethinking that one.
Number 11. Feedback on being overly critical of yourself. You're right. I probably am being a bit hard on myself. Thank you for noticing.
Number 12. Feedback on a decision you disagree with. I really appreciate the input, though I'm going to stick with my original choice for now, for these reasons.
Number 13. Feedback on public speaking skills. That's genuinely helpful. I'll work on projecting my voice more.
Number 14. Feedback on team collaboration. Thank you. I'll make more of an effort to loop everyone in earlier.
Number 15. Feedback on a creative project. I appreciate the honest feedback. Let me sit with it and see how I can incorporate it.
What a great comprehensive range, listeners. 15 completely different situations, but every single response follows the same calm, gracious, growth-oriented tone we've been building throughout this episode.
Beautifully summarized. And honestly, once you internalize this tone, calm, curious, and non-defensive, you can handle almost any criticism with real confidence and maturity. Quick bonus vocabulary section. A few phrasal verbs that come up naturally around receiving feedback and processing criticism.
Great idea. First, take on board, meaning to genuinely consider and accept feedback. I'll definitely take that on board for next time.
Second, brush off, meaning to dismiss something quickly, often used when someone doesn't let criticism bother them too much. I try not to brush off feedback too quickly, even when it stings a little.
Third, get defensive, the very phrase from our title, meaning to react protectively or argumentatively. I used to get defensive a lot, but I've been working on that.
Fourth, own up to, which we mentioned in our apology episode too, meaning to honestly admit responsibility. I think it's important to own up to genuine mistakes.
Fifth, bounce back, meaning to recover quickly from a difficult moment, like tough feedback. It stung initially, but I bounced back pretty quickly.
Fifth, dwell on, meaning to think about something, often negatively, for too long. I try not to dwell on criticism too much once I've processed it.
Let's build an example combining a few. Honestly, I used to get defensive whenever I received criticism. Now, I try to take it on board, own up to genuine mistakes, and not dwell on it too much afterwards. I've really learned to bounce back a lot faster.
Perfect, natural example, listeners. These phrasal verbs add a real depth and fluency to conversations about handling feedback.
Let's cover an important, often overlooked part of this topic: what happens after the actual conversation, processing criticism healthily once you're alone with your thoughts.
Great addition, and this connects nicely to our bad day episode too. Useful phrases: I need a little time to process this. I'm going to sit with this feedback for a bit before deciding how I feel about it. I think I'll journal about this to work through it.
Great, healthy phrases, listeners, showing that processing criticism is often an ongoing personal process, not something that has to be fully resolved in the moment.
Let's also cover phrases for separating useful feedback from unhelpful negativity during this reflection. I'm going to take the useful part of this and let go of the rest. Some of that feedback felt fair, some of it I don't think I agree with, and that's okay.
Beautiful, discerning phrases, listeners, showing real emotional maturity in sorting through feedback thoughtfully, rather than accepting or rejecting all of it at once.
Let's also mention talking to a trusted friend to process bigger, more emotionally difficult feedback. I think I need to talk this through with someone I trust before I fully process it. Completely healthy, valid step.
Let's build a full example. I've been sitting with that feedback since our conversation. I think some of it was really fair, and I'm going to take that on board. But honestly, I don't fully agree with all of it, and I've decided that's okay too.
Beautiful, balanced, reflective example, listeners, showing healthy, complete processing of feedback well beyond just the initial conversation.
Let's do one more role play, this time handling criticism in a more public setting, like a customer review, since this calls for a slightly different, more composed tone.
This service was honestly pretty disappointing. I expected much better.
To a customer later, privately. Thank you so much for sharing your honest feedback. We're really sorry to hear your experience didn't meet expectations. We'd love the opportunity to make this right. Please feel free to reach out to us directly.
I appreciate you reaching out. That actually means a lot.
Of course, your feedback genuinely helps us improve, and I'm sorry again for the experience.
See, listeners, notice how calm, professional, and non-defensive this public response felt, acknowledging the feedback graciously without getting emotional or argumentative, even in a public, potentially embarrassing situation.
Beautifully demonstrated, and honestly, this exact structure works wonderfully for any public-facing criticism, reviews, social media comments, or public feedback of any kind.
Let's do one more role play, a reflective internal one, showing how to gently manage your own self-criticism using the same tools from today's episode.
Inner critical voice. You really should have done a better job on that presentation.
Calmer, wiser inner voice. Okay, let me actually think about that for a moment, rather than just spiraling. What specifically could have been better?
Inner critical voice. I think the ending felt a little rushed.
Calmer, wiser inner voice. That's fair. That's something I can genuinely work on next time. But overall, I did prepare well, and I handled the questions confidently. I don't need to be perfect to have done a good job.
See, listeners, notice how this inner dialogue used the exact same pause, acknowledge, reflect, respond structure we've used throughout this episode, just turned inward towards our own self-critical thoughts. Beautifully demonstrated, and honestly, learning to gently manage our own inner critic with the same calm, balanced approach is one of the most valuable applications of everything we've covered today. Let's squeeze in a few more listener questions before practice time. From a listener named Elena, what if I receive criticism in a group setting and I feel embarrassed in front of others? Great, honest question, Elena. A calm, brief response works well in the moment. Thank you. That's helpful. I'll think about that. And you can always request a private follow-up conversation afterward if you'd like to discuss it more further. Could we chat about this a bit more afterward?
From a listener named Dario. How do I know if criticism is actually constructive or just negativity I should let go of?
Good, thoughtful question, Dario. Constructive criticism usually comes with some specific, actionable detail and generally feels aimed at helping you improve. Vague, repeated negativity without any useful detail is often less about genuine feedback and more worth setting boundaries around.
Beautifully discerning phrasing. Great questions today, everyone. Thanks so much for sending them in.
Let's cover one more valuable angle before we wrap up, giving criticism kindly, since understanding this side often helps us receive criticism with more empathy too.
Great addition, and this connects beautifully to our advice-giving episode. Useful phrases. I have some feedback. Would now be a good time? I noticed something and I wanted to share it constructively. Can I offer an observation?
Great, respectful opening phrases, listeners, showing that giving criticism thoughtfully starts with the same kind of permission-asking and gentle framing we covered for giving advice.
Let's also cover the classic feedback sandwich structure again, briefly, since it's especially useful here. Something positive, the constructive point, then another positive or encouraging note. You did a great job on the overall structure. One thing that could be even stronger is the introduction, but overall, this is really solid work.
Beautiful, balanced structure, listeners. And understanding this from the giving side really helps build empathy for how much thought often goes into delivering criticism well.
Let's also mention focusing on specific behavior, not personal character when giving criticism. The report felt a bit rushed, focuses on the work. You're careless feels much harsher and less constructive.
Great, important distinction, listeners, showing that thoughtful criticism givers focus on actions and outcomes, not personal judgments.
Let's build a full example. I have some feedback on the project. Would now be a good time? You did a fantastic job on the research. One area that could be stronger is the timeline. It felt a bit rushed toward the end, but overall, this is genuinely strong work.
Beautiful, complete example, listeners, showing exactly the kind, thoughtful criticism that's actually easy to receive well.
Let's do one final role play, showing both sides of this skill together. Two friends exchanging honest, caring feedback about a shared project.
Can I share some honest feedback about our presentation? I think it went really well overall.
Of course, I'd love to hear it.
I just think the middle section dragged a little. Might be worth tightening up next time, but your opening was honestly fantastic.
Thank you for saying that. And yeah, I actually felt the same way about the middle section. I appreciate you bringing it up so kindly.
Of course. Any feedback for me?
Actually, yes. I think you could have made more eye contact with the audience, but genuinely, your content was excellent.
That's really fair. Thank you. I'll definitely work on that.
See, listeners, notice how naturally and warmly this mutual feedback exchange flowed. Kind delivery, genuine reception, and zero defensiveness on either side. Exactly the healthy dynamic today's whole episode has been building toward.
Beautifully demonstrated, and honestly, a lovely, complete note to close today's deep dive into handling criticism on. Okay, listeners, let's practice. Speak your answers out loud, not just in your head.
First, practice receiving small, casual criticism gracefully, using a light, warm response.
Second, practice receiving professional feedback using our full structure. Pause, acknowledge, reflect, respond thoughtfully.
Third, practice respectfully disagreeing with feedback using a phrase from today's episode.
Fourth, practice asking for clarification on vague or unclear feedback.
Fifth, try using one idiom from today's episode in a natural sentence.
Great job, everyone. Comment below with one phrase from today's episode you're going to try using this week.
Quick recap. First, we learned the basic structure for responding to criticism: pause, acknowledge, reflect, respond thoughtfully.
Second, we built vocabulary across acknowledgement, reflection, clarification, and commitment to improvement.
Third, we practiced managing our internal emotional reaction, using calming self-talk and brief pauses.
Fourth, we covered responding respectfully to criticism you disagree with.
Fifth, we explored handling criticism in different contexts: professional, personal, and casual.
Sixth, we avoided common mistakes and explored cultural notes and useful idioms.
And finally, we practiced 4 full example conversations, plus a bonus bank of 15 criticism scenarios.
That's everything you need to handle criticism calmly, gracefully, and confidently, without getting defensive in any English-speaking conversation.
All right, that's it for today's episode. Next time you receive criticism, try using one of today's phrases, even just one.
If this episode helped you, please like it, subscribe to the podcast, and share it with someone learning English.
And comment below. Tell us your favorite phrase from today's episode for handling feedback gracefully.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. Keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Take care, everyone, and remember, criticism isn't a judgment of who you are. It's just information you get to choose what to do with. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.